The Interview Show would like to thank Lifeway Foods. It takes guts. And Lagunitas. Beer speaks. People mumble. Except on The Interview Show.
It fell through, but I heard, and they always say that politics makes for strange bedfellows, that you were supposed to have had dinner last night with Mitt Romney.
I was, yeah.
What's
Weather intervened. He's going to speak at the Institute of Politics of the University of Chicago. He was coming in, and then the thunderstorms delayed his flight and kept delaying and delaying, and we finally decided to reschedule, so he's going to come later this spring.
I bet if he had won, Air Force One could have made that flight.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was thinking that too.
Yeah. What would dinner with Governor Romney, what would it have been like? Is it? I mean, sure, it's cordial, but first of all, who pays? He's got all the money in the world, but you won.
Right.
So who pays?
We'd have to split the check.
Yeah.
But no, look. The truth of the God's honest truth is that after the election, he invited my wife Susan and I to come out to his, I guess my wife Susan and me, to come out to his reunion of his funders, and they wanted to hear from philanthropic groups. My wife started this foundation, CURE, Citizens United for Research in Epilepsy, to raise money for epilepsy research because we have a child who's badly impacted by epilepsy. And he could not have been warmer, and the audience could not have been warmer, because you can imagine as I walked in, I didn't know quite what to expect.
Yeah.
And so, the one thing that I always try to remind myself is that beyond this combat that we do in politics are real people, and we ought to relate to each other as real people, even if we disagree.
Is there any correlation whatsoever, and I would assume no, between party affiliation and how much of an asshole you are? No, I'm serious.
I don't think any party has a monopoly on let me say that. Mo Udall, the old congressman from Arizona, late congressman from Arizona, he used to say he used to ask, what's the difference between a cactus and a caucus? And he said, a cactus is when the pricks are on the outside. And I suspect that was a bipartisan commentary.
Yeah. Well, one thing that the book is wonderful, and one thing, and we don't have to name names, is that without saying so, you do a remarkably subtle job of making it clear when you don't like somebody.
Apparently not subtle enough.
So what are your feelings about George W. Bush?
It's a more interesting question than you meant it to be.
No, I mean all my questions to be somewhat interesting.
Yeah. But it's more interesting than you even imagined.
Okay, give it to me.
And I'll tell you why. Because, and this goes back to my first point about being able to disagree with people and still recognize the good in them. George W. Bush, first of all, could not have been better to us in the transition between administrations. Offered every bit of assistance he could, had all of our counterparts in the White House meet with us and talk about what they did. He hosted a luncheon for all the former presidents with the president. And then on the final day, on Inauguration Day, I was standing in the Speaker's office waiting for the President-elect to give him something, Obama, and George Bush came in, and I said, President Bush, I was on television this morning, and I was talking about you, and he said, I don't watch TV. And I said, well, let me tell you what I said. I said, you guys handled this transition like true patriots, and we really appreciate it. And he put his hands on my shoulder and said, Axelrod, I've been watching you. So now I'm like
TV.
A little bit worried. Not on TV.
Where?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I didn't even catch the
Through your window?
contradiction. See, I wish if I had a West Elm desk, I'd be sharp like
yeah.
that, and I'd be able to.
And a little
I'd be able to
higher
catch
than the.
that stuff. Yeah, I think it's the higher chair. You've got a better perspective on things. But he said, I've been, and I didn't know what he was going to say because we were pretty rough on him in that campaign. And he said, and
He wasn't
he
gentle.
Said, you're gonna do all right. You're all right. He said, you're in for the ride of your life here. It's going to be the best and most interesting experience you ever had. So just hang on because it's going to go by faster than you can imagine. And it was really a warm exchange. And so, and all the guys I know who and gals who worked for him say the same thing about him, that he's personally very warm. So you can be a bad president and a good person. Is what it is.
Okay, so you go to D.C. You're there for 2 years,
Yeah.
and I assume it is it's in the book. It is the ride of a life. And here's what I don't get: you breathe politics. Why isn't D.C. your home? Why aren't you like, this is everything
Because
I want?
I don't think politics in D.C. reflects the kind of politics that I think. Gary Hart, the former senator from Colorado, who was a presidential candidate, gave me some advice back in the mid '80s that I've never forgotten, and it was never forget Washington is the last to get the news. And it was a really profound statement because Washington is the biggest echo chamber in around, and it's filled with conventional wisdom, and it's a one-industry town in which people are very focused on who's up and who's down and whether the red team's winning or the blue team's winning. And I felt, even when I was in Washington, in the White House, I described in the book being in the White House as looking at America through a periscope. And I think one of the dangers of spending a lifetime in Washington is you actually lose touch with America. So I always referred to myself when I was there as a Chicagoan on assignment. I always knew I was going to come home. This is the real America right here.
On the flip side,
right here at the Hideout.
I certainly am.
It's all depicted in this beautiful mural.
Home Depot is not yet a sponsor.
You don't see stuff like this in Washington.
No. I was at a party in D.C. a few years ago, and everybody was in the...
Name dropper.
Yeah. I was with Tim Tutton, owner of the Hideout, who works for Arnie Duncan, who does something for education. And there were a bunch of people there. They were all either journalists or they were in politics, and they were discussing HUD policy. And it was at a level that, to me, it was inspiring because I thought, these people have come here, and I get what you're saying, but also these folks, and they were younger folks, but they really cared about what they were doing.
And yes, there are a lot of incredibly well-motivated, smart people who could be doing other things and making a lot more money, who are engaged in the business of trying to make this a better country. And I would never, ever denigrate that. But there's also a pathology to the town that was very focused on politics and power and who's going to get it, who's going to keep it. And the fundamental view was that anything you did that jeopardized your hold on power was foolish, and anything you did that could perpetuate your power in office was the right thing to do. And I think that's the wrong approach.
Why?
The world, because
the
world of politics divides into two categories. There's a more numerous category of people who run for public office because they want to be something. And then there's a smaller and more admirable group of people who run because they want to do something, because they see it as a calling, they see it as an opportunity to make their communities and the country and the world a better place. And but again, that's not the prevailing view in Washington. The prevailing view in Washington, and one of the reasons why I admire Obama is because he's in that second category. The things that he's been doing lately and the things he's done throughout. I mean, when we had the discussion about health care, my job was to advise him on politics, and I said, politics suck on this. This is 7 presidents have tried, 7 presidents have failed. I've seen the research, I've seen the focus groups, and this is going to be an incredibly costly venture. And he said to me, I get that, but if we don't act in the next 2 years, we probably won't do it. The health system's going to continue to implode, double-digit inflation, millions more people without insurance, burden on government, families, businesses, it's unsustainable. He said, so what are we supposed to do? Put our approval rating on the shelf and admire it for 8 years?
This is such a gossipy question. I'm sorry. Any idea where he's going to live afterwards?
Kenya?
You know what? He should do some. He should just move to like Tampa, just to surprise everybody.
He had a great joke at the Gridiron dinner a few weeks ago where he said, Scott Walker was there who said he couldn't answer the question as to whether the president loved the country or something. And the president said, of course I love the country. Why would I have moved here from Kenya if I didn't? I don't know where he's going to live.
Is he a funny guy?
Yeah, he does have a good sense of humor, and he appreciates good jokes. I mean, I have to say that the sort of cartoon characterization of him, in Washington, this is part of the Washington thing. They say, well, he doesn't like people and he doesn't like politics.
Yeah.
No, he may not like some of the people in Washington. He may not like Washington politics.
Does the president and do you get hurt by attacks? I mean, there's just so many that it would at some point you just have to say, I don't even hear these anymore. But you're human.
One of my concerns about him was that he really hadn't experienced that a lot before he ran for president. I didn't know how he was going to feel about these constant attacks. I said, I don't know if you're Muhammad Ali or Floyd Patterson. And for those of you who don't follow boxing, it was the difference between a guy who could take a punch and a guy who couldn't take a punch. And I really wasn't sure until we went through the campaign together, and I saw him
take the punch.
I saw him grow a thicker skin. I saw him, I saw the toughness that I wasn't sure was there, and that's increased over time. Now, every president says, I don't even read that stuff. And every president lies. But at the end of the day, he is very centered. He knows what he believes. He knows why he's fighting, what he's fighting for and why. And so he navigates it pretty well.
What about you? Do you get hurt by attacks?
Well, I think I've grown a thicker skin too over the years. And I've been through, 150 campaigns and a lot of stuff. So, but I will say, it's never pleasant.
150 campaigns? What's your record?
It's good.
Yeah. Last question.
Yes.
Give me your definition of politics.
My definition of politics is the way in which we organize to steer our country or our community or our state in a direction. My thing is that we put all the burden on politicians. I think citizens have a responsibility too. Congress is going to meet with you or without you, and all the things you care about, whether it's climate change or human rights or education or any of these things, they're going to be affected profoundly by the decisions that are made. So you either get in there and make a difference, or you live with the consequences of other people's decisions, and I really believe that. So yes, as messy and as troubled as our politics can be, I still really believe in it, and I want to encourage other people to get in the arena, not avert their eyes.
David Axelrod, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Guests on the interview show all share one thing in common. They take risks. We'd like to thank Lifeway Foods, makers of probiotic kefir, for making possible this week's It Takes Guts interview.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. I wanted to have you on because I wanted to apologize.
What?
Well, so a few months ago, I ran into this dude who worked for the NBA.
Yeah.
And he was organizing the celebrity basketball tournament.
Yeah.
And I said you should have Hannibal on, and he said that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then something happened.
Then he reached out. He said, "You interested in playing in a celebrity game?" And I said, "Yes."
The Celebrity All-Star game.
The Celebrity All-Star game. He asked me if I wanted to play. I'm a huge basketball fan.
Yeah.
That's the only way I'll be able to play basketball in front of that many people. It's through playing in a celebrity game, and then it went away. It got closer to the game, and I said, "What's up with this? What's up? Are you taking my dream away?"
Well, he said he was going to send you a contract, correct?
He never sent the contract. I think he was a person. I think he had good intentions, but he was somebody that was speaking above their station, and so he didn't have the authority to do the things that he was saying he could do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
And you
really
had planned your weekend around it.
Yeah, because I told my uncle back in August or September, so my uncle, I'm flying from Chicago. And so now I have people in town in New York to see something that's not happening, and I have to entertain them. So
Oh, did you go to the game?
I did go to the celebrity game. I went to the game because he felt guilty, so I guilted him, so he gave me tickets. And so I was there seething, and I got pretty drunk, and I was thinking about running on the court. And I didn't want to do that. That'd be cheap pop, so I didn't want to do it.
What is it like being on the road all the time? Is it everywhere I go, I have tons of friends, and it's amazing, or is it the very opposite, lonely?
It's pretty dope, man. I travel the country and perform for thousands of people. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is.
Pay me afterwards.
There's about 75 people here.
Yeah, this is fun too. But yeah. It's
Well, what I was always amazed, because you were writing for SNL, then you were doing 30 Rock, and then you were just like, yeah, I'm gonna go tour.
Right.
And I was like, God, man, that is a bold move.
No, it's not. Because you make more money doing stand-up. Eventually. It was calculated. It was like, I want to do this. I don't want to do that.
But that's what you love the most.
Yeah.
You sold out Chicago Theater last night.
Yeah, I did. Chicago Theater sold out, yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I had some friends that were in the front row that bought scalped StubHub tickets. It's always funny, StubHub. I use them sometimes when I need tickets to an event, StubHub, but people sometimes will write me online complaining about the price of my tickets on StubHub. Like they act like I'm selling the StubHub tickets. Like, Hannibal, I like you, but $400? Come on! Like, I think it's because StubHub has incredible search engine optimization or something. And so if you search my name and the city, then that comes up first, and the venues is like the 10th result or something. It's crazy, man. Hey, StubHub, I respect you, but you're messing with my fans.
Before your show, you're in the Chicago Theater. Are you?
Right.
Do you have a routine? I mean, you have a stand-up routine, but do you have a routine beforehand that you?
No, not really. I pace a little bit. I watch the opener. I watch who goes on before me. Last night I had Leon Rogers from WGCI, comedian Lil Rel from Chicago, and Chance the Rapper perform before me. So I was watching Chance do music, and then I went on.
I heard he's doing comedy now.
I haven't seen him do stand-up, but he's doing some comedy and acting. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you do music?
I've done music.
Well, you've done gibberish rap.
I've done gibberish rap. I've did a little known cut. It's not as popular as my cut, gibberish rap. Also, nobody here knows about gibberish rap. It's not that popular.
Well, they can Google it at home, the people at home.
I have another song called Versace Breakfast.
Just, you don't have to sing it or rap it, but what is Versace Breakfast?
Versace Breakfast is just talking about having just excellent, top-notch breakfast.
I don't know why I asked.
I have a song called Doug Stamper. It's on my friend Open Mike Eagle's record. Open Mike Eagle, great artist. He has an album called Dark Comedy, which is really good, and I'm featured on that. So I have a little.
You've got a half of an album.
I got an EP. And I got some underground stuff that's not. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. One day.
Hannibal Buress, everyone.
Thank you, man.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it, bro.
I've been called a fool before, but I just think I'm sorely confused. You were supposed to be my pillow, waiting for me to crawl back home to you. I've been told a few truths before, for one that was never fair to you. But now you're well, and I wanna tell you I love you, whatever you choose to do. But every now and then I wanna run back to you. Every now and then I just might lose my mind. Every now and then I wanna hold you tightly, like the neck of my third glass of wine. Nowadays it's just me and my pillow, slowly drowning in the light, staring out my sun-soaked window, wishing I could crawl back into your life. Ooh. Oh, every now and then I wanna run back to you. Every now and then I just might lose my mind. Every now and then I wanna hold you tightly, like the neck of my third glass of wine. Oh, even if just one more time. Ooh, oh, no, 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 no. Tell me, baby, oh, tell me, baby, oh, one more time. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
There's a lot of people who say, well, it's class, not race, that matters most. And you're saying, no, it's race.
I mean, look at food deserts. You could have $100,000 as a black person in a black neighborhood, and you still live in a food desert. That is race. That is not class.
The Interview Show would like to thank Lifeway Foods. It takes guts. And Lagunitas. Beer speaks. People mumble. Except on The Interview Show.